Are we on the Twitch again?
Boy, are we. Coming up on this episode of Don't Panic, it's our year-end wrap-up episode. We're talking the biggest stories of last year, what will be the biggest stories of next year, and our picks of the year. It's a can't miss episode of Don't Panic. It starts for you right now. This is Don't Panic, episode number 186, recorded... No, that's not right. This is the old one. Let me try this again. This is Don't Panic, episode number 187, recorded December 18th, 2017. Looking back, looking forward. Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Jennings. This is Don't Panic, the technology podcast on Gadgets United You, and I'm joined by two guys who are at the peak of human health. Colby Rabideau and Dan Miller. They're feeling just... I know you guys are psyched up and ready to go.
You may not like it, but this is what peak human health looks like.
Welcome to 2017. That's
Glass of water.
Yeah, the Dan Miller kit.
Cough drops.
Yeah. Raisinets.
Used tissue. Raisinets.
Now, are Raisinets, can you get those over the counter now, or do you need a prescription?
They keep them behind the counter so that the government can record who's buying them.
I guess Dan goes in, I need 20 cases of Raisinets, and they're like, oh shit, he's making meth with them.
Listen, so I saw the new Star Wars movie on Sunday.
I saw it on Saturday.
I did not see it. Please do not spoil it.
Oh my God, Sean, we went through this whole thing last year, 2 years ago.
Did we?
And yeah.
Was I slow to see it last year? I don't remember.
No. Did you see Rogue One? I'm talking about The Force Awakens. You watched all the movies.
Yes,
it was a whole deal.
Yes. I live tweeted me watching the Star Wars films. It was quite enjoyable. I enjoyed The Force Awakens.
Do you have plans to see the new Star Wars movie?
Like every human on the planet, I will. But can I be completely honest? I'm really not that enthusiastic. I'm just, I think, oversaturated with it. Just being like, and I've been good. I haven't seen any. I saw like the very, 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 very first teaser trailer, and then have been on a blackout. I haven't seen any of the trailers. Haven't seen any of the. Haven't read anything about it. I'm totally oblivious to what happens in the movie. Yeah. But I'm also not like that excited to see it. But also, I really didn't like Rogue One that much. So I don't know if maybe that's soured me a little bit. It was fine. It was a good movie. I've seen much worse movies, but it was very bland, I thought, as far as films go.
I see.
Well, this one's quite different from Rogue One.
Yeah, so let's get the opinions.
What?
The high-level opinions on the film, because according to the people I follow on the internet, it's about 90% love it, it's amazing, and 10% it's not that great.
Yeah, I liked it. Okay. I was worried that it was going to keep doing what The Force Awakens did and just be a copy of Episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
It is not that. So in that sense, I was happy, and it was a good movie that wasn't a copy of anything that came before it. So I was very pleased. However, if you were expecting more of what The Force Awakens had to offer, like we're just gonna give you some nostalgia good feels, we're gonna hit some of the same tropes, we're gonna there's gonna be some cool fight scenes and some explosions, like there was that stuff, but it didn't feel like comfort food. It felt a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good.
But that's what I wanted.
Colby, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I guess I agree with that. I did enjoy it. The space battles were exciting. Things happened. They were cool. I think there was definitely I think Dan is right in that unlike The Force Awakens, it was not exactly like what had come before. But you could definitely see the inspiration from what came before. There were certainly throwbacks. It was just not the whole movie was the throwback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was good though. I'd go see it. It's worthwhile.
Nice. Well, we
anyways,
yes.
If you're sick and you're going to a movie theater, what movie theater candy are you going to get? Raisinets, because they're healthy for you. You get some of that vitamin C.
Are raisins high in vitamin C?
I wouldn't say they're high, but they're higher than anything else.
Higher than popcorn?
Than dirt? I don't...
Actually, no, it's 0% vitamin C, never mind. But if you want some calcium...
a lot of calcium in those raisins.
Mm-hmm.
Or does that come from the milk and the milk chocolate?
I don't know.
That's a good question. But that's good advice. That is sound pseudo-medical advice.
Yeah. Sound pseudoscience. That's what you get.
That's what the people come here for. Now, before we get into the wrap-up stuff, I do have a bit of follow-up from last week. Dan, I know you weren't here. You were occupied. Did you?
I was occupied with some. Yeah.
Yeah, you were busy. But did you listen to last week's episode at all?
No. There are so many podcasts.
It's a problem.
I had to catch up on the Star Wars podcast before I saw the movie. I had to listen to the Star Wars podcast after the movie. No, I didn't listen to it. How was it? What did you guys talk about?
No, so we did a little mini segment where I didn't know what to get my dad for Christmas because he's a dad and dads are impossible to shop for. And Colby and I, we batted around some ideas and we didn't, frankly, really come up with anything good. So I kind of point blank asked him, I was like, what do you want for Christmas? And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because you'll never guess what he said. Now, I mentioned this last week. My father he likes to smoke meats and watch football, and he does not know anything about technology.
For a second, I thought you were going to say smoke weed.
No, God, no. He's way too boring for that. No, that would be cool. That is not the case. Great guy, very boring, not at all tech savvy. Guess what he wanted for Christmas?
Apple Watch.
No.
Alexa.
No, he's still using an iPhone 4. 4! I didn't even think those worked anymore. He can't download new apps. He's on like iOS 9.
That's awesome.
I know somebody who has a 5C. That's a few iPhones ago.
No, he asked for an Amazon Echo. And I
called it. I said it. Did you hear me just now?
I did not, but I believe you said it. And I said to him, I said, you literally will not know how to use it. And he goes, no, it's fun. I'll ask it questions and ask it about the weather. I said, so I went and bought him one. And we'll have to report. He does not know how to even watch a show if he wanted to, so I'm not afraid to spoil it. But
my favorite game that you play with the Amazon Echo is figuring out which word you have to say to get it to stop the whatever type of timer is going off. Mm-hmm. Like mostly like the timers, like things where you say, "Hey, set a timer." That goes off fine when you say timer, but like reminders, when you ask it to remind you to do something, I don't know what the Echo thinks those are called because it's not reminders. Because when I say, what's your face, stop that reminder, it doesn't stop the reminder. It continues reminding me. So that's interesting. If anyone knows what reminders are called.
I just got in the habit. I just shout, stop, cancel. And eventually she'll get it. If you just do it long and loud enough, she'll get it. So
I want it to be a conversation or something.
It's you got to shout at it like all good technology, Colby. Just shout at it till it stops, like they intended. Anyway, so I'll update you post Christmas and let you know how that goes. But thanks for all of the many suggestions our fans sent in of gift ideas. It just piles of mail. I'm still opening it. So anyhow, guys, can you believe this is the 5th time we've done a year-end wrap-up episode?
Whew.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
I said, oh my God, but I was...
On the very first one, we talked about the biggest stories of 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? We talked about like Edward Snowden.
Oh man, that guy.
And Google buying Boston Dynamics and getting into robots.
Haven't they sold them since then?
They've sold them since then. They're not even doing it anymore.
Wowie.
Yeah. So it's been a long time. And we have done sort of the same format every year. If you haven't seen this before, we kind of wrap up 2017 by talking about each of us pick a biggest story of the year. Then we each do a prediction for what we think will happen in 2018, which is always fun. And we do a pick of the year, the best thing we picked all year long. Guys, I don't know where you want to start. Maybe we can start with the top stories of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
That seems reasonable.
He's very enthusiastic. I'll go ahead and jump in first, because why not? And I wrote down on our sheet, this is the year we weaponized social media. God damn it. Oh, actually, before we get to that, I do want to mention, did you guys see, we don't really get political on the show, nor do I want to, but did you guys see the Donald Trump Hall of Presidents animatronic at Disney that they put out today? Go look up. It was all over Twitter, so I'm sure you'll be able to find it. They unveiled his animatronic in Disney World at the Hall of Presidents, and it's the funniest goddamn thing. They intentionally made him look that shitty. There's no way they did that on accident. If you can find, and there's someone on Twitter did, because they had the video of the ride of him talking, and they overlaid the grab him by the you-know-what Access Hollywood tape speech over it. It was too perfect. It was too funny. But anyway, I don't mean to get distracted, but that was such a treat today. It's a terrible looking robot. So, anyhow.
Wow.
I digress.
I have so many questions.
Do you? Would you care to share?
Where is this in Disney?
It's like a ride. It's in Disney, and it's the Hall of Presidents. They have all the presidents are there, and then I think Bill Clinton was the first one where they put the current president in and gave him like a speech, and so then they swapped the Bill Clinton one out for the Obama one. And now they swap. Well, I mean, they keep them, but then only the current president gets like a special little speech they give.
That's
gotcha.
Weird.
So what have they
I
been
think
doing
it's
for the
weird
past
when they're
year?
The ride's been closed. The ride's been closed actually for refurbishments as they were working on this new one.
Yeah.
So anyway, that cracked me up.
Interesting.
He looked so bad. Anyhow,
Have either of you been on that ride? I assume, Dan, you haven't because you were.
Well, not that I remember.
I did not. It's too boring. If you're gonna go to Disney World, don't. What is it, $100 a day now to go to Disney World? Why would you go to the Hall of Presidents?
$100
What is it,
a
an
day.
Epcot?
No, I think it's Magic Kingdom. I'm pretty sure it's Magic Kingdom, but it might only be I know California has it. I'm pretty sure Orlando has it too, though. I don't know. I'm not really a Disney expert per se. Anyhow, top story of the year. We weaponized social media. Yeah, this was the year social media stopped being fun and started being used as a weapon, which kind of sucked. Not just like, the bad foreign governments influencing our election part, but like also white nationalists using it to, get people banned. They would go search through years of archive material for one person making an off-color joke and use that to get them suspended. People buying ads to influence people and going generally unchecked, and these social media companies getting caught on their backsides without policies to handle it. We saw Twitter today actually rolling out their new sort of not quite zero tolerance, low tolerance policy of being more aggressive about banning people. We'll see how that sticks. But yeah, I think it kind of, I think social media stopped being sort of a fun thing and started being more of a utility with pros and cons. And the cons, I think, sort of became a little more self-evident.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I think we all have to be a bit more on guard now than we used to. You can't. I asked me this question maybe not. Asked me a year and a half ago this question. I would have believed pretty much anything that was said on Twitter because I'm a sucker, and it's made me double check what things go around.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, it does, like, there's a radicalization on both sides, and it's not helped by, I don't know, like, why isn't Facebook, why isn't any of this stuff, like, all of the big public things happen on Twitter. And because of that, like, the radicalization is you can't, and people say this over and over again, but you can't have a nuanced conversation in even 280 characters. So, but that is, like, even the news channels are just, like, putting up pictures of tweets on the screen now. So I think that's another component of it is, like, yeah, people are using it in a weaponized way, but then there's just, like, the whole medium itself is, even if there weren't state actors doing things, I think it would still be bad.
Well, sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there who are just jerks. And also, I also think businesses and corporations aren't really doing us any favors with the way they're advertising and link bait. And I just think kind of like any late stage platform, sort of all the nooks and crannies have been found out, all the sort of loopholes have been discovered. And, I used to, maybe this is just a small example, but when I first started doing social media as a job, I was always Mr. like, oh, I'm never going to be that guy who puts all like 8,000 hashtags at the end of his Instagram post, and I'm never going to tag people just so they'll retweet me. Yeah, guess what? I got to do all that shit, and I hate it, and I don't like doing it, and I feel like a chump, but it works because it gets my numbers up, and I have to report on my numbers, and every month my numbers have to be higher than the month before it, and that's what, I mean, it's all business. That's what it is. This isn't fun. This isn't a town square where you can go and share your ideas. These are businesses meant to make money. Facebook makes its money on ads. Twitter makes its money on ads. Sorry. No wonder they're going to take Russia or whoever else's money. That's what they report on. They report to their stockholders.
Indeed.
And that's a bummer because I don't treat it like a business in my everyday life. I use Twitter more than any other web platform on the planet.
Same.
And it's integral. If it went away tomorrow, I would feel like this is going to sound so lame. I would feel like a piece of me was missing. No, because honestly, it has become such a fire hose of information into my brain that it's heartbreaking to see it sort of twisted and broken in a lot of ways.
Is there any hope, Sean? Is there any way back?
I don't know. I've stopped thinking in terms like that. Because everything in this world changes. Because there was a time where we didn't have Twitter, or a time when Twitter was different, or a time when, I remember when, oh my God, we were all mad about the Facebook news feed, and but we'll go to Instagram because Instagram's pure. It's just images. You can't do anything bad there. And then they added ads and algorithmic feeds, and now they're testing all this bullshit. Like, oh, when your friend hearts an image, now it'll show up in your feed too. Which is like, no, that's the whole point. I go there is not to do this goddamn news feed bullshit. And then we all were like, oh no, Snapchat's the future. And then they added brands, and it's like, no, it's always going to happen. It's always going to happen. So I think it's just how you deal with it and figure out what's next, and hopefully something good.
Do you think, like, inevitably every social network just becomes Facebook?
Yeah, because I mean, MySpace kind of became Facebook, and then
Facebook
everyone went to Facebook.
is the only one that like succeeded in like being a company so far, right? Like, really, like, yeah. Twitter hasn't really succeeded yet.
No. No, and Snapchat's struggling.
Right.
But Facebook also, I think, made a lot better decisions too. I mean, they make ad money outside of Facebook because they run an ad network, so I mean, they've done a lot of things a lot smarter than these guys have.
Indeed.
So
yeah, I think you're right.
Its day will come. Yeah, remember how big Yahoo used to be? I mean, Yahoo used to be the face of the internet for a long time in the 90s, and they managed to go away. Amazon almost went out of business, and now they're the biggest company in the world. So
that's true.
It all comes together. I'll enjoy it.
Internet's crazy.
Internet be crazy, yo.
It does be crazy.
Does be cray. Yeah. So not I try usually to pick a positive story, but this year that was kind of my biggest story of the year. Was sort of the changing of the guard in the social media world. Dan, you've got an intriguing log line here in the sheet. What was your biggest story of 2017?
Well, I interpreted this question differently.
Which is fair.
I don't know why. I took it as my favorite story of 2017.
That's fine. That totally.
And I looked through them all, and I remember talking about the stupid smart toilet and just laughing and laughing. And then that whole conversation segueing into the futility, perhaps, of the Internet of Things in general. And I don't know. I was tickled by this story. I see it happen to me all the time. Whether it's like Siri not hearing something you're saying, or finally I experienced the HDMI. I don't know if I talked about this on the show earlier this year. You know the HDMI CEC thing where like your HDMI devices can control your TV? I had that working flawlessly for years. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly I couldn't turn my TV on anymore. I couldn't turn it on. And like I had to like very precisely like keep turning my PS4 on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. Until I could finally like get the TV on long enough to hit like the menu button and disable it. And it was like, ah.
Yep.
So I've been manually turning my TV on like a plebeian.
Yep.
But That works every time. And a lot of this other stuff does not.
Well, I don't want to cut you off, but it's just funny you mentioned that story because I am in an HDMI nightmare right now that is too perfect, which is because a 4K has HCDP, which is essentially DRM for HDMI.
Yeah.
So you're not pirating stuff, and it never fucking works. And I'm in this weird loop where Roku will push a software update to my 4K Roku, and it will break the HDCP connecting to my TV, and it won't work. And then my TV company, Vizio, will push a firmware update to my TV, which will fix it. And then it will work. And then Roku will push an update and break it again. And it's a cycle of every, like, for a month it'll work, and then a month it won't work, and then a month it will work, and a month it won't work, because they're pushing, like, back and forth software updates. It's a nightmare.
As a software engineer, never really considered this, but we like to say that the benefit of software is that you can, quickly change things to fix bugs, and you can get things to market faster because you can fix things faster, and that's a better way of being. But is that not a better way of being? Like, I don't know.
On the one hand, you can actually fix things when you break them.
Right.
However, I feel like the send it out there before it's actually done mentality results in things being broken way more often than they would be if it wasn't software, right? Like if it was something like physical, something that you couldn't take back.
But it's part of that mentality of, like, everything gets updated now, which is a problem because no one knows who each other is updating. And, like, when technology used to ship, like, if something was broken in it, at least you knew it was broken and you knew how to deal with it being broken. Now stuff is being broken in different ways every other week. That's the problem I have, is I don't mind if something is shipped broken and they push one update in the lifetime I own the product, because I can live with that. But because everything we lost Dan for a minute there.
Oh, that was weird.
There we go. Oh, it's Windows, Dan. I'm telling you, you shouldn't.
I know. I pressed the button and then the entire screen went away, and apparently my video turned off also.
I do not like new Skype so much. But no, I'm constantly updating my lights and my smart switches, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I agree with you. My Nest connects to my Harmony, connects to my Alexa.
The cascading software update thing is, I think, a big problem, and this is really just complexity. So maybe there's a world like something like Apple Home but it's telling you, like, oh, hey, your light bulb's updated, and because your light bulb's updated, we updated your smart hub, and because your smart hub updated, now we updated your Apple TV. But, like, the steady state, I don't know. Maybe there's to be software that manages our software updating.
Oh,
is
no.
What I'm saying.
No. Okay, come on. You know that's going to end so badly. Oh, no, the software updating your software needs a software update. No! No! Curses.
Oh, yeah.
What? Oh, that's awful.
I mean, that definitely exists already in
other forms, yeah.
In the industry, if you will.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's true. Everything's broken all the time.
Oh my God. I'm so sick of firmware.
So that was my favorite story.
Yeah, it was a good one. No, I appreciated that one.
Did anyone here buy a smart home thing this year? I didn't.
I bought an
Eco.
Eco.
An Eco?
Oh, sorry.
Echo.
The Amazon listening.
Oh,
device.
you bought an Echo.
I did, yeah.
I think
that counts, right?
Did you buy anything?
I bought most of the stuff last year, but this year I bought a Nest thermostat. That was, I think, my big smart home pickup of the year.
I like that. That was one of the first ones, and it's still one of the best.
It's great. It's just simple. It just works. That's kind of. But I
feel
would
like
say
the light bulbs too.
Most
like,
of it does. The only problem is when you want them to interact with each other. Like if you're just turning your light bulbs on and off, or just turning the thermostat up and down, you're right. It works pretty well almost every time. The problem is when it's like, well, I'm going to set an if recipe that when the weather outside hits 68 degrees, all my light bulbs turn purple. And it's like, and then the whole thing blows up. Like That's you don't do because it's when my Harmony Smart TV remote asked to connect to my thermostat, and all I could think of is why, like how does that even work? And I was like, no, don't overcomplicate it. It's very odd.
Imagine if you were like trying to turn up the volume, but
like,
the
it's
heat
so
was
hot
going
here.
up. And,
Oh my
like
god!
I can't hear, and it's too hot. What is happening?
I'm in just a torture chamber of my own making. Oh no. Yeah. So it was a good year for smart home stuff. I got it. Like I said, I got a couple Echoes as Christmas gifts and some smart switches and stuff. So we'll see how many people's lives I can ruin this year.
Excellent.
Sweet. All right. Good pick there, Dan. Colby, what do you have? You have a top story of the year?
Yeah, I think my top story came right at the end because it'll have implications for what we're talking about. I think we'll be talking about the results of this on this podcast next year, or maybe we won't even be doing this podcast next year.
Well, if you pay your ISP, you'll be able to see us doing the show.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think mine's like the net neutrality stuff that's ongoing as we speak. I have very little faith that the Senate will do anything about it, so I expect we will be going into 2018 with, a new frontier of shenanigans available for the worst companies in the country to, really gouge us any which way they can. So yeah, that's. I don't really have that much to say about it. It's just like finally, like this is a thing that's come up on and off. I don't know, once a year or so, right? For the last few years, and like they finally did what they wanted. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Do you think there's hope?
Colby, I was watching before we did the show. I was watching the Google Sheet, and I saw you put that in your prediction for 2018, and then you ended up moving it. And I was going to challenge you on it. I'm actually going to challenge you on net neutrality in 2018. Maybe this is me being a little optimistic. Maybe this is me just like, ignorance is bliss. But I don't think it's actually going to change that much next year. I really don't. I think maybe 3 or 4 years from now. I just think it's got a slow burn on it, and I think, we've all sort of seen these like dire, like, there's the streaming package, which is $5 a month, and then if you want social media, it's $5 a month. These kind of like graphics they put together what the internet could be like without it. I don't think that's going to happen next year. I don't, and maybe I'm kind of naive, but I see 2018. I think you'll just see a lot of what you've already seen. You'll see a lot of, the Go90 app, because Verizon owns it, will not count towards your data caps, and I think you'll see a lot more of that a lot more vertical integration type stuff when AT&T finishes buying Time Warner. I'm sure they'll bundle HBO and CNN and a bunch of stuff in with all their properties and, zero rate a lot of that stuff. But I just find it I just personally think it's very unlikely that they'll roll out any major changes to the way the internet is delivered to your home in 2018.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think one of the reasons I moved it out of the predictions is that I didn't really have a prediction.
Sure.
I just feel like it was a notable thing that like we've talked about many times before and happened. Do you think, I guess I'm interested, like now that you mention it, I am interested to see like what vector it takes, right? Because I do think at least in the short term, the Comcast and Verizons and AT&Ts of the world will want to play it like they're not doing anything nefarious, right? Like I'm sure there are hundreds and hundreds of PR people working day and night to figure out how they can do exactly what everyone fears without it seeming like that. So it's interesting to think of where it'll start, because I'm sure it'll start on the edges, right?
I'm curious what you guys would say. I mean, in my sort of prediction for 2018, I think you'll start to see more data caps on home internet usage, which has never really caught on in the U.S. I think you'll start to see more of that. I think you'll start to see more, you might get promised, say, 25 meg download speeds from your ISP. They promise that to you 24 hours a day. I think you'll start to see more throttling. You'll start to see, hey, if Colby, you used a lot of internet yesterday, so we're going to slow you down today type stuff. Probably for a discounted rate, but I think you'll still see that. And I think the biggest, most immediate thing is they're not going to pass changes onto you, the consumer. They're going to go to Netflix, and they're going to say, Netflix, pay us more money, or else we're going to slow you down.
That's what I was kind of thinking, is that like the first changes will be to how other companies are interacting,
or vice versa.
And probably a couple of companies in particular, like Netflix, YouTube, Amazon Prime.
But it could also work the other way, right? Which is Netflix could go to the ISPs and say, "Hey, we'll give you more money if you serve us up a faster connection."
True. So, yeah. Indeed.
Those are your fringe cases, but
yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait.
But again, this won't actually even become a rule for a couple more months, and then it will be in the courts for quite a while. So, be vigilant, call your senators, but who knows how much we'll have to panic next year.
I wish I had a more interesting senator to call.
Yeah, that's the problem with living where we live. Yeah, Dan's a little more interesting than we are.
I am?
Well, not in terms of senators, but Congress people. Yeah, you've got some Republicans.
Not my Congress people.
No, but at least no one from Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, sure, but it's not like I can't call any of those Congress people.
You can be like, well, I live next door. I basically live in your district.
Basically live next door.
Yeah, how does that work? I feel like you should be able to
call your neighboring counties, right. Your neighboring districts.
I don't even think neighboring counties. Yeah.
That's right. I forget you live in Brooklyn, Dan. Cool. All right. Well, those were the big stories of the year. We'll have to see if they last into next year. If we look back and say, hey, those weren't big stories, but I think they were. Good picks all around. Let's dive into predictions. This is one of my favorite parts of when we do these episodes. Historically, we've been hit or miss. Do you guys remember what you predicted last year, or did you have to?
I do, because you put it there.
That's why I put it in the sheet, because I don't remember either. So let's go through our last year's predictions. I will go first because I was wrong. We've done now 5 of these, and I've never been right. I've never even been close to right. 2 years ago, I said the tech bubble in the stock market was going to burst. It's only gone up. Last year, I said original content was going to implode, and companies like Netflix were going to run out of money to make original programmings. Netflix is increasing their budget and is spending more than ever on original. There's more original content than ever. Hulu just won a goddamn Emmy. Okay, so what the hell do I know? Well, Netflix is putting out a Will Smith movie next week. So I blew it. I blew it. Garbage. A garbage prediction. So I own that. Dan, I don't know if you remember the exact what you meant, but you said the return of activist technology. Do you think you called it?
I think I actually nailed this. Yeah. I think that we saw this a bit, at the very beginning of last year. We saw it a bit when people talked about, okay, here's the progression to have in mind. Remember, Arab Spring happened and people Twitter's this big enabler of activism. And it turns out, no, it's not. Because, it's not a decentralized sort of open network. And, that has its pros and cons. But to have, activist technology has to be decentralized and open, and in a lot of cases encrypted. And I think we have seen a big resurgence of that stuff this year. Signal, things like Discord, which is a kind of a more secure version of Slack, much more open. Mastodon, I think we saw federation and openness as a fad, remember app.net in the past, and it always went away. And I don't think that these things are going away now. I think they're going to be here for good. People talking about Tor a lot more than they were before. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty proud of myself with this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's interesting. We even saw there were some members of Congress who were using Signal, and they were very quickly told, "Hey, don't do that. We can't, request records access to those. Yeah, I agree. I do think that was a good prediction, an accurate prediction. As well, I don't think it helped any, but people are using it. Maybe it did.
I feel like after last year.
Yeah, because even Snowden with all of his stuff, this stuff didn't really take off in 2013. Speaking of our 2013 stories, so
that's true.
I was gonna say after last year, I feel like any political campaign that is still using email for anything at all is don't do like why would you still be doing it? I don't know. It's fascinating.
What are you hiding, Colby? What don't you want us to find out? Why won't you use email?
Or am I?
What do you?
I use email for things.
This is why I'm not voting for Colby.
Right. I'm not running for office, and nor do I plan to.
Where are your damn emails? Colby, how about your prediction last year? How do you do?
I said VR goes the way of wearables. Some people are into it, but mostly, I feel like that's kind of true to a certain extent. I don't think I feel like maybe we'll see what the next 6 months or so brings, but it almost seems to me that thinking about where wearables are at now, it's there's the Apple Watch seems to be pretty popular. I think Fitbits are still pretty popular. I know we've talked about on the show how there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of activity in the Android Wear space. So, I feel like it's mostly been about the same though. I don't know, but I think VR is seems to be that way too. Once in a while we hear about things and was it this year the HTC thing came out, the Vive?
I think it got in people's hands this year more so, yeah.
Right. So some new players in the game, but I don't know. I certainly haven't seen it taking off or anything. I don't know anyone I don't know any non-nerds who have gone out and purchased VR headsets. So we'll see. But then again, Apple's talking about doing stuff like that, right? In their, the WWDC presentations and things. So maybe it's too soon to judge. But I guess it does remind me of wearables in that everybody has their thing sort of, and it's unclear where it's gonna go.
Well, I went back and listened to, not all of it, a little bit of last year's episode. We were talking about that prediction, and one of our big criticisms was VR is cool, but there's nothing to do with it. We were there are no games, and there's no excitement around it. That I do feel has gotten a lot better this year. Big companies are pushing. We saw Fallout in VR. We saw a bunch of Star Wars stuff in VR. I think VR in that respect has gotten a lot better this year. I think your prediction's pretty spot on, Colby, that some people are really into it, mostly meh. But I think next year will be an even bigger year. I think it's just a slow burn.
Fair enough. Yeah, we'll have to see if it continues to hold true or not.
You are muted, Dan.
The thing that bothers me about your prediction, Colby, is that I think that wearables are here and they have succeeded. This is the success. You look on the subway in New York, I don't know, probably close to half the people have an Apple Watch or a Fitbit on. I call that a win. So yeah, I don't think that VR went the way of 3D TVs yet. It's not dead.
That's true.
But I also don't think it's where wearables are.
I think it might be where wearables were last year, though. Right?
Maybe.
I think it took a little while before, when wearables were the new hot thing. It was they were going to do everything, right? But so it took a little while for everyone to figure out what they were good for. And it turns out, I think what they're good for is like health stuff, and like that's what they're good for, and that's what everyone who is still like doing it is focusing on for the most part. I mean, like, you know, like there's fringe features, like you get your notifications and stuff, but like the ones that made it through, like Fitbit made it through with Apple and Android Wear and stuff.
Yep.
So maybe we'll see that with VR incoming. Like, what's the thing that it's like you can only do with that, right? Like, because health stuff gets an order of magnitude better with one of these devices, right? Like, you could track your steps from your phone, but it's like it's just okay, and you don't always have your phone and stuff. But then you get one of these devices, and you get your steps all the time, and you get your sleep and your heart rate or whatever, all this other stuff that would not have been possible at all with the phone. So like, that's the question, maybe, like, what will VR's like thing that you could never do and anything else be? Maybe, I mean, I'm sure you can speculate there are many things like that, but like, what will the one that gets it there to sort of ubiquity be? Or maybe there won't be. I don't know.
Well, 2018 is going to be a huge year for VR hardware. And we've already seen some early announcements of what we can expect next year. Next generation stuff from HTC and Oculus. HoloLens is finally going to come out. Who knows what Apple's doing? It'll be one of the biggest years for VR yet. So we'll have to look forward to that. You're muted again, Dan. Oh my goodness.
I can't do it. Next year we'll see a lot of the V2 stuff come out. Yeah. It should be interesting.
Yeah, that's when wearables got good. Sweet. All right. Well, let's move into predictions for next year, 2018. Who knows what 2018 holds? But we might. So let's give it a shot here. Who wants to go first?
I need a break from talking.
Okay. I since I'm the one with the buttery smooth voice and I've gone first on everything, I will go first on this. As I've mentioned very clearly, I am not good at predictions. So I spent a lot of time coming up with a prediction that is somewhat plausible and makes sense. And I think I came up with one. Only recently have I started using Apple Pay over the last 2 months. And it's kind of great. It actually works really well, and it's very fast. I don't even have an Apple Watch.
I've been telling you this for years.
I know, and I should have been paying attention. But like most Americans, I found it a little intimidating, and I didn't know where I could use it. And all of that changed because I got over that, and then all of a sudden, my local supermarket started accepting Apple Pay, and the small farmer's market store where I went to get stuff accepted Apple Pay. And I was thinking about it before the show. The only place in my day-to-day life that I could think of that doesn't take Apple Pay is the gas pump. Other than that, pretty much everywhere else takes Apple Pay. It's pretty incredible. Drive-thrus aren't very good for Apple Pay. That's the other thing, is they got to figure that one out. But I did some research, and I found a bunch of articles with some payment statistics in it, and what I found was about, and I'm kind of combining a bunch of different studies here, but they said about 20% of smartphone users have tried the payment systems on their phones, and they account for about 5% of all credit card transactions, give or take. Okay, it's much higher on the Apple side, kind of a little less on Samsung and some of the other devices. Apple is like about 20-25% user base have done payments with it. My prediction is in 2018, mobile payments are really going to take off. You're going to see it accepted in more places and more stores. You're going to see people more comfortable using it. You're going to see a lot more Apple Watches. The new Fitbit smartwatch does payments. The new Garmin smartwatch does payments. Of course, Android Wear does payments. All of Samsung's all the devices now do payments, which I think is a big difference as well. So my prediction is, and I will have actual statistics to back up how accurate I was. I think 50% of device users will at least have tried to make payments at some point next year, and it will account for an earth-shattering 25% of all credit card transactions will be mobile next year. 5 times increase.
Good numeric prediction.
It's
we can measure
bold
that
prediction, but I think it's going to be huge. I'll also say Apple Pay on in-app is also pretty incredible. I've been using that a lot more, and that's super easy.
And if you have, at work on your fancy iMac, did you know you can buy things in Safari with Apple
Pay?
I
gotta although no, because I'm not. I'm not signed into my. Don't you have to be signed into your iCloud account and stuff?
Probably
on your Mac. Yeah, I don't do that on my work machine.
Oh, why not?
Because I don't put my personal stuff on my work machine.
Come on.
If I had a work phone, I would do it. Maybe I'll ask my boss, hey, can I get a work phone so I can buy things in Safari with my finger?
Yeah.
See how
or your face.
Or oh, man. Oh. Too much technology. Yeah, just think of how much faster your payments are going to be with your face. Well, you know that.
You know that.
So,
it's pretty fast with your face.
I'm excited. I would love to use my phone to pay for everything everywhere, frankly. The other thing, too, is loyalty cards. Like supermarket frequent shopper cards and that kind of stuff isn't great yet.
Isn't that stuff kind of impossible in Apple Pay? Because it's generating the random token every time, and the whole point is that they can't know who you are?
Really, as far as I understand it, the only way you can do it is on-screen barcodes, which... is better than nothing, but it's still kind of a pain. But they're opening up what I would.
I just don't see Apple providing support for this.
Well, I think,
although wasn't it supposed to be in Wallet?
Well, NFC. They're opening up the NFC more and more with APIs. So I think what you would need is whatever your local supermarket's app would have to integrate with the NFC somehow to scan it at the register. So, but it'll be I think a lot longer than just payments to do that. But anyway, that's my prediction for next year. Please hold me to it. I don't know who wants... Colby, do you want to... Is your throat in a condition to give us your prediction?
I'll give it a try. I think... I don't have a very good prediction here. So I was thinking of the thing we talked about last week where Google pulled or is threatening to pull YouTube off the Amazon Fire Stick and stuff. I think that if you are a person like me who has a streaming device on one of the big three, call them on one of the tech companies that both has their own media and their own streaming device, I think more of that stuff is going to happen next year where they are fighting with each other. Maybe it'll just happen behind closed doors and we won't know anything about it. But I think if this YouTube thing goes down, all bets are off, and you should probably just buy a Roku.
Well, am I allowed to one-up your prediction?
Sure.
I agree. I do think that's going to absolutely be a thing. I think an even bigger story is going to be tech companies versus content companies versus ISPs. I think that's kind of your triple, because you're going to see, Google and Facebook fighting with Comcast and those guys versus the new Disney Fox super company and...
Well, interestingly enough, the ISPs are also content companies.
Exactly. And they don't want to compete with the YouTubes of the world.
Right. Oh, my.
Monopolies are not fun. The board game makes it seem like it's so much fun, but it's not. Who could have known?
Wow. Yeah, in any case, I think stuff like that is going to happen more.
Do you want to pick a winner?
I don't want to pick a winner because I don't want to pick what the fights are going to be.
No, just pick one company. Be like, if we look
back... Damn, that was
a
deep sentence. I just want everyone to appreciate that. I don't want to pick a winner because I don't want to pick what the fights are going to be. Damn.
No, get your Buddhist bullshit out of here. No. No. Just pick. If we look back, it doesn't have to be like they actually won, but when we look back, if we had to pick a winner for 2018 at this point next year, we'd say this company did the best. Who do you think it would be?
A single company?
Yeah.
I think it depends on how the net neutrality stuff goes. I think if it goes poorly, we might get to the end of 2018 and see that, I don't know, Comcast is having a grand old time. Or if not, I think, maybe the Netflix is still the content king or whatever. We'll see.
Fair enough. Very good. Dan, do you have a prediction for us?
Nope, I don't have any
Okay.
predictions for next year.
Okay. That's fair. Then we will just shuffle right along to Picks of the Year, where we each sat and thought about what our favorite thing or our best thing or whatever of our summary item of 2017. I was looking here in the sheet what we picked last year. Do we still stand by what we picked last year? Which Dan, you picked The Witcher 3. Yes, you giving me the nod.
Absolutely. I need to replay that game. I was just thinking that earlier when I had my week off.
That would have been a good time. Colby, you picked All Things Hamilton. You stand by that?
Yeah, still good.
Hamilton's still great. And I picked the Philips Hue Smart Bulbs, which I totally still stand by. So we did good last year. Let's see how we do this year. Dan, why don't you go first? What's your 2017 pick of the year?
So, a while ago, I picked on the show a podcast called Roderick on the Line, #SuperTrain. We need it now more than ever. And and there's so many of those episodes, and it's something that is timeless. So you can start from the beginning, and it never feels like, oh, why are they talking about a Ground Zero mosque? Like, what is this? Like, no references like that. Each is like its own little self-contained. Well, not really self-contained. They all build on each other, but they're not temporal in any way. And I don't even think I'm on episode 100 yet. There's over 250 episodes. So I've gotten so much enjoyment, so many laughs, so many lessons. I feel more confident about our future. I've been helped a lot. Roderick on the Line is an excellent program. And even though Sean's only listened to 3 episodes and still doesn't get it, I'm confident that we'll get him.
I will stand by. It's a perfectly fine show for somebody.
Now,
Just not for me.
now, Dan, I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Do you listen to the currently airing episodes or
No.
I haven't done that either, but I was just wondering if you do.
No.
I've been tempted because once in a while I see one like retweeted,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh man, I really want to know what happened.
Sean was saying they were talking. Well, yeah, they were talking about the most recent one on Due by Friday this week. So hey, in like a year or two, I'll know what that episode was about.
You'll get there. Colby, I'll ask you, not to steal Dan's thunder here. Do you have? I know you have a pick of the year. Do you have a podcast of the year?
Ooh,
Shit.
Because I know we
Good
listen
question.
to a lot of them.
yeah.
I think Reply All really killed it this year. Like they really came into their stride and did some like crazy stories about things that like no one else is doing stories about. Like, you know how, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like listening to like NPR-ish podcasts for like 4 or 5 years, like you start to like get the same stories again. And I don't mean like re-syndicated podcast stories. I mean like a different podcast will cover like the same topic or the same person or something. And, you know, often they have their own spin on it, but like, it's like, I'll find myself listening to some podcast and be like, I knew about this already. Which is weird. And I feel like Reply All like breaks new. They're just doing something that maybe other people are doing it, but it's like, I haven't heard it before. Like the episode they did about like Pizzagate was awesome. The one they did where they like went to India to track down like a phone / like antivirus software scammers was awesome. The one they just did about God, what was it about? They had the one about like the 1-800 number scam, which was crazy. I have to look right now for.
I've never listened to Reply All. Should I do that? Or are you saying I should?
That's a
do
good
that?
one.
I think you should. Yeah, it's very, very good.
Hey, I need another podcast like I need a hole in the head. All right, I'll give it a shot. Oh, that's good. All right, well, I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the most recent one was about like weaponized social media, like on topic for you. Weaponized social media in politics in Mexico.
Cool.
Very interesting. But yeah, I feel like they do really great like internet stuff. And I enjoy listening to it.
Awesome.
So.
Good pick. I would probably say I think a non-surprising answer, and I'll cheat and do two. It's a coin flip. And I don't know if they're new to me this year. I listened to like 1,000 times more podcasts in 2017 than I did in 2016. And I would say it's a coin flip between Do By Friday and probably Mabim Bam are probably my two that I enjoy the most. That I look forward, that I actually like get excited when a new episode shows up. So those have been a real
You're
treat.
welcome.
I honestly, I again, Dan,
Did you know how all this started? Do you know how all this started? I was thinking about this the other day.
I don't think so. No, what?
A while back, I picked on the show a podcast with Max Timken and Patrick Rothfuss, which sadly, tragically, no longer seems to be having new episodes. Hopefully, because he's writing his new book. But that was how I heard about Do By Friday, because they talked about Do By Friday on that podcast. And then Do By Friday is one of the reasons I started listening to Roderick on the Line. So
They are
it's
all
all
connected.
connected.
Hey,
And is Do By Friday one of the reasons you started listening to Mabim Bam?
yes. Also, one of you picked it. I
Okay.
think Colby picked it on the show.
So oh man, the podcaster social graph must be fascinating. But I've been listening to that show Sawbones for ages.
Mm-hmm.
Sawbones?
Yeah, it's the one about wacky medical history. And
Yeah.
that show is Travis, one of the McElroy brothers, and his wife, who is a doctor. And they talk about wacky medical history. And I just like found that one day. It was like in a suggested list on something, and I listened to it. But that was the one. That's how I got on Mabim Bam. And also The Adventure Zone.
Yep, that was a great one.
And then everything got connected after I don't know.
Yeah.
Other things that the circles closed or whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah, it's been a very good year for podcasts. Speaking of that, I will say my pick of the year briefly is AirPods. I think, and I put in parentheses the wireless future because also I'll say wireless charging on the iPhone 8. But I've completely eliminated cords out of my life this year, which has been pretty amazing. I feel free. I feel light and relaxed. Part of the reason I'm able to listen to podcasts a zillion hours more than I used to is because, and I know it sounds lame, like, oh, were wires really slowing you down? But yeah, they kind of were, you know? And I just think that the convenience of just popping them in, I can now listen to them while I'm cooking or mowing the lawn, where a wire used to actually get in the way and actually be a problem, or I wear it lying in bed because I'm a maniac and listen to podcasts before I go to sleep. But I find the AirPods, again, no cables. I think the AirPods work extremely well. I'm not saying they're the best wireless headphones out there. I think they're sort of just the simplest and most straightforward ones, and they work every time, and I've never had a problem with them. And they sound good enough, in my opinion, and I've just have gotten my money's worth out of them 5 times over. For travel, they're great. I cannot recommend them enough. If you've never tried wireless headphones and you like Apple's style of headphones, they're a great pick. And I've enjoyed mine immensely. So
Cool. Can confirm wireless headphones are nice. I don't have AirPods, but same idea.
yeah, it's been good. And Colby, you got an Apple semi pick here.
Yeah, I really like Face ID. I think so here's how I've been thinking about it. There are times when Face ID, it just doesn't work. Like, you can't use it. And there are times when Touch ID doesn't work. You just can't use it. You have to get into your phone another way. I think the Face ID trade-off is better than the Touch ID trade-off, right? Like, Face ID works in times when your hands aren't accessible and you don't want your hand. It is annoying to make your hands accessible, right? Like Touch ID doesn't work if you have gloves on, and it doesn't work
if you're in the shower.
Right. If your hands are wet, be it from the shower or from cooking or whatever. And Face ID works perfectly in both of those situations, which is great, I think. It doesn't, however, work sometimes when you're in like a weird position or you're like laying down in bed or whatever. And like, yeah, it's sort of inconvenient that I can't, unlock my phone as easily when I'm laying down in bed. But I'm also laying down in bed, like, it's not that big a deal. Whereas like for if I'm cooking or something, I have to go like stop what I'm doing and like wipe off my hands. This doesn't actually happen to me that often, but like when it does, it's convenient. So I think it's cool. I'm really a big fan of the winter thing. Like I used to do like have like crazy decision trees in my head where it's like, should I put gloves on? Like I'm only going to be outside for 15 minutes. So like maybe it's not cold enough for that I have to put gloves on. But now I just don't have to worry about it. And like, assuming you have gloves with like the finger, like connecty fingers, it's great.
Connecty fingers. I lost all my gloves, so I don't have a decision tree at all.
Oh no.
Just cold.
You should
hands.
just go to Uniqlo and get there. They have like reasonably priced gloves that have connecty fingers and they work fine.
I asked Santa for the wire cutter pick for gloves, so I'll let you know how it goes.
I looked at that, but they're like ships in January. Like, okay.
Oh. Hopefully mine get here by Christmas. Oh no. I didn't check that. I assumed Santa could get them. He makes them up in the North Pole, doesn't he? So I assume. All right. Well, we're not only out of time, we're over time, and that's okay because it's our last show of the year, guys. That's it. We did it. 2017.
Yay.
Can you believe Jesus Christ? Can you believe it? When we started 2017, we're like, will this ever end? And it did. And we survived. I got to be honest.
It did.
I feel optimistic about 2018. I don't know. Maybe that's crazy.
There's nowhere to go but up.
Well, that's honestly, I mean, it's like, we thought 2017, we had a list of like 1,000 bad things that were going to happen, and only like 200 of them happened. That's a pretty good batting average.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I think it's true. We haven't died yet.
No, and honestly, I think, and I will just say from my heart, what a treat 2017 has been for me to do these shows with you guys and with Matt. And what a great we hung out. We went on vacation this year, which was fun.
That's true.
And
That's true. Oh my God, podcast vacation. We have to plan next year's podcast.
We do.
Oh yeah. Can we Coffee and Beer Summit? I feel like it needs a more epic name.
Yeah, we're gonna get T-shirts made. It's gonna be great.
Coffee and Beer Con.
Yeah, I like that. Coffee and Beer Palooza. Coffee and Beer East, and then people just assume there's one.
Coffee
West.
and Beer Jamboree.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, coming to a city near you next year. Look for the tour dates coming out soon. And what a great year it's been. So I'm sad to see it over, but we got an exciting big year planned. Now we won't be doing a show for the next 2 weeks. It will be Christmas and New Year's. We are taking those days off, a well-deserved break. These guys got to get over their respective illnesses. So we will be back in early January with some tech news and more stuff on this show. Is there anything else you guys would like to say before we conclude this year?
Happy New Year, happy holidays.
Hey.
See you in 2018.
Peace out. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. I won't go through the whole spiel because you've heard it before. Don'tPanic.io is our website. You can get all the information there, but that's going to do it for us this week. So on behalf of Colby, Dan, and everyone who's been such a great fan all year long, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We appreciate it. We hope you have as much fun as we have had, and we'll see you next year for an all-new episode of Don't Panic.